will all remember. So Toastmasters Srishti, identity crisis, Toastmasters Srishti.
Hi everyone, my name is Srishti. I am 30 and a half years old. And when I grow up, I want to be a design strategist. No, I want to be a potter. No, actually, illustration artist. But I can also consider a motivational speaker. Okay, actually, I don't really know what I want. And, I never thought that this would be a problem in my 30s. That the questions that used to plague me in my 20s, like, who am I? What is my place in the world? What is my path? These would have already been figured out, and I wouldn't just be winging it along as I went by through life. But here I am. When I was in college, I was blissfully unaware. I didn't think much about my plans, life goals, my passions. I was happy to just have a good time with my friends. But as soon as I finished college, things changed. For the first time, I was confronted with adulthood, responsibility, and the consequences of my own choices. Before I continue, I just want to take a quick poll. How many of you have heard the term identity crisis? Okay, I'm going to say both of me. Okay, so there's many of us. Cool. Okay, so after college, I was completely lost and facing some good amount of identity crisis. Everyone else around me seemed to have found their calling, and here I was with no clue about my goal or my meaning in life. And I thought, let me just read books. I watch movies, I listen to podcasts, hoping, praying that, someone will just emerge from somewhere and tell me that, girl, this is what you have to do, this is who you are. And then I would just follow it and live happily ever after. Instead, I saw all the people around me who all seemed to know what they were doing. They were doing well. They did not seem to suffer in the way that I was. And thankfully, I found a concept in a book that really changed my thinking. So I was reading a book. It's called The Defining Decade by Meg Jay. When I came across the idea of identity capital. So anyone here unfamiliar with the word capital? Please raise your hand. Okay, so not a lot of people, but just for clarity. So capital, when you look at it from a business perspective, capital is the starting amount of anything, or money or assets that you get started with in order to start creating value, right? It's whatever the amount of wealth that is available for business. So when I think of identity capital, what is it? Now imagine that this world is a marketplace. What makes you desirable is the value that you have to offer. So like in a marketplace, if you find something valuable, if people find it valuable, they want to purchase it or they want to associate with it. Now, what makes you desirable is the value that you have, whether it be as an employee, as a friend, as a family member, as a guide, mentor, evaluator, club president. What value is it that you provide? And sure, like you have a set of educational achievements and professional histories, but there's also a host of other interests that uniquely combine to make you you. I'll give you a short example, and I think that will illustrate it. When I was in my master's program, I applied for this organization called Cult Fit. Have you heard of it? They make gyms and sports equipment, and now they have a variety of other things, but they focus on fitness. Now this is the final round, and I was there, and another candidate was there. His name is Zia, both from the same class, and surprisingly, we were also both from the same college in our undergrad. So same class, same course. There is actually no difference on paper between both of us, except one non on paper difference is that Zia was a sportsman. He still continues to be a sportsman. And if you can look at me, you can tell that my knowledge and skills in fitness are about bacteria sized. So guess who got the job? Okay, no spoilers. It was Zia, and he still continued to work with them for a long time afterwards. And this is a small example of how identity capital works. So some identity capital can go on a resume, like degrees, jobs, test scores, clubs. But other stuff is more personal, like, being interested in one particular field, like sports. And more things like how we speak, where are we from, how we solve problems, how we look. It's our collection of personal assets. So it's a repertoire of individual resources that we assemble over time. These are the investments that we make in ourselves and the things that we do well enough or long enough that they become part of who we are. So, for example, I do pottery on the weekends. Okay. And that has kind of started becoming part of my identity. I'll talk more about it. So, this particular pottery interest that I have, it also has a lot of transferable qualities that I can take away. Like I make a lot of mugs and most of them don't really look alike, right? But from the process itself, I learned mindfulness, concentration, and detachment because pottery breaks all the time. And that's something that I can take into other parts of my life and use it. So, this concept, when I got into it, I realized that our identity is actually not something that we discover. Like, we are not some 100 rupees note that you left in your jacket last winter and you found yourself. It's actually something that you create by being interested in a lot of things, and your key experiences, relationships, and just your way of being in the world all culminates into forming an identity for which other people, so employers, clients, friends, partners, want to associate with you. So if you're someone like me who identifies as a jack of all trades and master of none, I would encourage you to stop treating your education, your work, your hobbies, your pastimes, and your weird passing interests as discrete and unrelated activities. Instead, start thinking of them as identity capital that you are collecting over time that will add to your worth as a one whole human being. So stop thinking of your identity crisis and go get yourself some identity capital. Yes, I'm speaking to you, Toastmaster Anshuman.
Definitely, Toastmasters Srishti. Thanks a lot for teaching us the meaning of identity capital and enlightening us of how we can build our identity capital to shape up our future. Request us to take 1 minute to share feedback with Toastmasters Srishti in her private chat. And in the interim,